So we are live now. Good evening, our audience. So welcome to our today's panel discussion. Good evening, dear ladies.
Good evening.
Good evening, nice to see you.
Good evening.
Yeah, nice. First of all, I want to thank you for accepting our invitation and spending today's celebration with us. So before we start introduction with our guests and our panel discussion at all, I would offer to wait for a couple of minutes for our first viewers.
Yeah, sure.
So I would like to share a little bit about today's celebration. So what do we celebrate today? It is the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. On 22nd of December in 2015, the General Assembly decided to establish an annual International Day to recognize the critical role women and girls play in science and technology. Science and gender equality are both vital for achievement of the international agreed development goals, including in 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Over the past 15 years, the global community has made a lot of effort in inspiring and engaging women and girls in science. Yet women and girls continue to be excluded from participating fully in science. At present, less than 30% of researchers worldwide are women. According to UNESCO data, only around 30% of female students select STEM-related fields in higher education. So for those who don't know about the STEM is abbreviation, stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. So long-standing biases and gender stereotypes are steering girls and women away from science-related fields. So, and therefore, we invited our speakers today to discuss this topic and share with their experience. So we already have our first viewers. I think we can start our introduction. Our first guest is Mary DeBoer. She's a Health and Education Office Director for USAID in Kyrgyz Republic. Thank you, Mary, for being with us today. So, a little bit information about Mary. Mary has worked for USAID since 2011 and has previously served in Dakar, Senegal, and Kigali, Rwanda. Previously, she worked for a National Institute of Health at Center to Reduce Cancer Health Disparities as a community-based participator researcher in Uganda, Liberia, and as a public health volunteer in Burguni, Tanzania, and as a laboratory technician at the Cleveland Clinical Foundation. Mary has a Master's Science degree in Health Community and Development from the London School of Economics in London, and a Bachelor of Degree in English Literature from Pomona College in Claremont, California, USA. Our next guest, Kızılbek Kanoa. Yeah, thank you so much. Our second guest, Kızılbek Kanoa. Kızılbek, 26 years old, and she's a program director of the Kyrgyz Space Program, which aims to assemble the first satellite in our country that will be launched into space. Kyrgyz Space Program aims to contribute to the development of science, education, and gender equality in Kyrgyzstan and the whole Central Asian region. Also, Kızılbek is a Tech Women alumna from 2019. And she had an internship in Mozilla HQ in San Francisco Bay Area. Kızılbek also founder of TechCamp 2019 project, implemented by the Kyrgyz Space Program in partnership with UN Women in Kyrgyzstan. Welcome, Kızılbek, to our panel discussion.
Thank you very much, Hede, for the introduction.
Thank you for being with us. So, and our last speaker, but not least, Mayram Sultanova. Mayram is 18 years old, and at the moment she is studying at the Kyrgyz German Institute of Applied Informatics. Mayram is originally from Osh city. She was born there and raised. Also, Mayram is alumna of Tech Girls 2019 program, and she's a graduate of study with the US 2019 program. Mayram is interested in information technologies, and at the moment she is a project coordinator in Enactus International US program. So welcome, Mayram.
Thank you for the introduction, and
to see you.
Thank you for the invitation to this panel discussion.
I want to say that you all are incredible. I just read your little information about you and wonder how cool you are. And I'm sure that during our panel discussion, you'll be able to inspire all of our viewers. So let's get started.
Thank you.
We have prepared several questions for you. So, and we will start from the first question. So, why have you decided to go into sciences? Who want to answer first? Please, floor is free.
I can start. From the 8th grade, I was interested in computer science and in math. So I think my decision was easy, and that's why now I'm pursuing the IT sphere. Thank you.
Great.
No, that's
Thank you.
interesting. I mean, I think 8th grade is such an important time. I know that when I was in 8th grade and 9th grade, I had many really wonderful science teachers and math teachers who were very encouraging to me, and several of them were women, which was also helpful. I would say, though, that not only did I have support at school, in my family, my father and all of my aunts and uncles were actually doctors. And so I was pushed maybe a little bit by my parents to go into medicine. And even though I ultimately decided not to pursue a medical degree, I think some of that exposure to the medical sphere, to working with my family, in the summer, and hearing talk about all the different projects and the different patients that my aunts and uncles had been seeing, it definitely made me interested in health, and that's what got me into the area of public health. So I think school was really important, and also, luckily enough, I had a family that was kind of encouraging as well. So maybe that's my inspiration.
That's really great, because I think in our country usually you don't choose the science, but the science chooses you. So it's a very interesting two-way communication, because when I used to study back at my school days, I really wanted to study some social science, instead. Something humanitarian like history, human rights, and so on. But my science teachers, like math and physics, they really believed in me, though I really struggled sometimes with this subject. And somehow, very interestingly, I got into science because I really love education and I love educating people. And I found this project that was able to educate as many girls as we can in our country and become role models. And I thought that, probably it's not me choosing science, but science choosing me. So I really love it.
you for sharing with your experience. So how do you think, whether in both countries, here we are talking about all have experience with the USA. What is your opinion?
I'm happy to start with this one. I think there's a lot of data in the United States that show that women are underrepresented, less represented than you would expect in the science spheres and in STEM. And, you know, that's not because they're not doing as well in math class or in science class as the boys. It's just that they don't seem to have the encouragement or maybe the self-confidence as a result of a lack of encouragement, often to pursue science as a career. And, you know, sadly enough, too, if women do decide to go ahead in the sciences, at least in the United States, it's a very masculine sphere. And so there can be some amount of discrimination. They can often be paid less, and sometimes there's fewer opportunities, able to have a mentor or someone to work with as a woman. So women actually end up dropping out of graduate programs at much higher rates than men do, despite, again, coming in with very similar abilities, very similar test scores. That being said, as I said, I have some background in public health and in medicine. At least right now, medical school applications and admissions in the United States are becoming increasingly, there are more and more women that are applying and being accepted. And some of that is because girls are doing so well. They're doing so well in college and they're doing so well in university in the math and science areas. And because they are expressing an interest in professions that allow them to use science, but also to use some of these skills that like caring for people or helping people to get better or to advance the state of health in their community, which maybe are more maybe traditionally feminine goals, but they're marrying them, combining them with their love and their abilities in science. And I think that's great. And the idea that we're having more women represented in the health sciences is a good trend that maybe will extend to some of the other areas like physics or engineering, where there's still fewer. So that's just my perspective, at least on the US.
Yeah, I think I can continue. So from my point of view, I do agree with what Mary has said. And I would like to point out that the situation has been improving in recent years.
So what can you girls say about, yes, please.
Yeah, I think we have some technical issues with the internet. Yeah, so I will continue. So it has been really improving in recent years because from my point of view, what me and my colleagues and some other partner organizations did and have been doing in recent time by raising awareness about STEM in our country, by reaching out girls and women in countryside area, which is really great. Though there is still inequality, I would say, in STEM, even at the entrance level, because many girls and women, they do not choose it to be their major at the university, because many girls are influenced by their families and the society as well, saying that this is a masculine job, right? It will be very hard to work there and at the same time build a family, because it really requires a lot of time, right? It's time and energy consuming job. Therefore, I'd say we still struggle and we have some obstacles in our way. But at the same time, the situation has been improving in terms of the increase of awareness and of the role models, which is great. And I hope that we will grow more role models and establish them all around the country. And I'd say it's great that the US State Department has been supporting our country as well by introducing programs like Tech Women and Tech Girls, because this also contributes to the increase of number of women and girls in STEM, right? And I'd like to point out that I really liked how many women there were in the US, specifically working in Silicon Valley, because I was able to see an example of strong, independent, professional women that are great specialists in STEM area. And I hope that one day Kyrgyzstan will also be able to represent that number of women.
Actually, I don't have any idea with this because I think there are problems with this around the world. But every year it gets better and better, and more girls in STEM sphere. And I'm totally agree with Mary and Kuzrubek.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I guess we have some technical problems, so but we will continue. I think you can hear me and see me properly.
Yes.
Yeah. So the next question: did you experience any obstacles or opposition to pursuing a science degree or going into science?
Actually, I didn't have any obstacles with the pursuing in the science degree, because my parents always support me in any decision, and even my father have suggested to me pursue in the IT sphere. I remember once he said me just watch the video in the YouTube how to create the website, and I have watched, but I didn't understand anything. But I have watched twice, and then I have interest in this more and more. So I didn't have any obstacles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I can add to that, but from a broader perspective, I was really supported by my parents in everything. But we also have to think about another perspective, is that what shapes our parents' view on what their children shall do. And in Kyrgyzstan, I would say back in the 90s and 2000s, STEM and science wasn't very popular because we don't really have demand for that, right? We weren't an IT hub back then, right? People were only learning to use very big computers at home, and not everyone owned them. Therefore, we had a lot of people who would like their children to study economics or law or some other professions, because STEM wasn't really a thing back then. Therefore, for my parents, science and STEM was something unusual, so they didn't know about it. Because, of course, we had Silicon Valley in California that was um, developing back at the time. But at the same time, here on another end of the world, people could hardly use some of modern devices back then. So therefore, I'd say we didn't have obstacles, but we just didn't know about many opportunities or how to use them. Therefore, my parents didn't really suggest me going, to engineering or science, because they were really concerned about my future. So what will I do in the future? So being an engineer in Kyrgyzstan is not very popular. It's not well paid, and there is no plants, factories that could use some of this labor. Therefore, I'd say the first obstacle that my generation specifically faced was lack of knowledge, right? Or as we say, lack of awareness about that. And I'm really glad that with the presence of internet and all other modern technologies, we are able to get a lot of information about that. But other than that, I'd say that my parents and all people I know personally are very supportive of what I do.
Maybe we're not the most representative sample, but my family too, like I think I mentioned, was very supportive, and I definitely had some very supportive teachers and professors. I did have one professor who told me I was doing too well in his class, and he was going to keep an eye on me because girls didn't usually do this well. And so I don't really know what that was about, but it was no one was actively telling me not to carry forward. But I think I can agree with the idea that having as time has gone on, we have more and more examples in the United States, and now thanks to all of you guys here in Kyrgyz Republic, of women who have gone before. And so once there's someone that you can point to that's in that kind of career and is living that life, doing that work, it makes it a lot easier for everyone coming afterward. And I was lucky to actually have, like I said, aunts that were working in medicine, and that made it much more acceptable, or much more common, at least amongst the circle of people that I grew up with. So not quite as hard as it might have been for her when she was starting down that path. So yeah, I think we've all been very lucky.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you are lucky that much, and I hope that many of other girls and women also are supported by their family, parents, and friends. Thank you. So the next question is how to encourage women and girls in science.
I think there are many girls. There are many girls who are interested in STEM sphere, but they have the uncertainty, like hesitation, and I think we should through such we such a panel discussion through the specific events to show more our success case, our women girls in STEM sphere.
No, I totally agree with you. I think think the more examples that there are out there of women that are doing this work and that are succeeding, the better able we are to dismantle stereotypes that might exist about what is women's work or what are things that are men's jobs. So I think that's really important. I was thinking about this a little bit yesterday in preparation, and I was thinking how important mentors can be. Having a teacher or a person that has gone before that can take you under their wing and say, oh, this is what you have to do. This is sort of the next steps. And maybe even programs in the States, they've been working on building these that formalize, create opportunities for women that are on the faculty, for example, of the university, to connect with young women who are starting in the math and science programs. And there's also been some interest in scholarship programs. Programs like the one that Tech Girls and Tech Women that the American Embassy here does, and sometimes women just need a little bit of a push. You have a talent for this, okay? Go ahead. We're gonna give you a little bit of a opportunity here to explore something, and those little pushes can make all the difference. And then thinking about once women start in careers, and as I was mentioning, in the States, women often drop out of science careers at higher rates more often than men do. And one of the reasons people talk about is work-life balance. So women also still have children to take care of and are expected to have roles at home, and building making the sciences maybe a little bit more humane, and respecting the fact that people are not just going to be sitting in their laboratories and running research until 2 a.m. and writing papers, and that they might actually need to spend time with their loved ones. Those kinds of changes to the ethos, to the mentality, I think might all make a difference for women. So, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you said and mentioned, and I really believe that role models, they do make difference. And when we explain to girls and women, for example, even for me, when I thought of becoming an engineer, I thought that it would probably be difficult for me, specifically together with raising a family. But at the same time, when I saw how easy it is to pursue this career, so when people told me that it's not rocket science, though I'm in a space program now, and still I understand how easy it can be, because we all had to start somewhere, right? We all had to learn things, and when you explain people that you had to start from somewhere, it was simple. So just take basic steps, and then you'll understand whether you like it and whether you're able to do it, because it doesn't depend on your gender, right, or on some other factors, because we are able to do anything we want. So it's just a learning process. And I really agree with Mary on the point that, from my personal experience, I think when I became a Tech Women Fellow, I was really inspired and I was empowered, and now I'm willing to be even more involved in STEM projects and to involve other women as well. So this is a very good trampoline for girls and women when they are supported, when they are taken care of during their first steps. And my advice to encourage girls and women would be to talk to them, to show them, be their example, and be their role model. And thus we'll have more women in STEM, well, I hope.
Wonderful. I totally agree with each of you. Thank you for your advice, for your ideas. My next question is, could you give place examples of real female role models in science to inspire the audience.
Actually, I don't have exact role model, female role model, but I have read many articles about our Kyrgyz women abroad that they have reached many now they work at the cool IT company like Google, Facebook. And these articles inspired me to moving to reach more goals.
Yeah, I think I can also talk about my role model. And I'm really happy that now I have one role model in science specifically, because when I was small, we would only have role model politicians mostly. But now we have very popular, very famous scientist who now resides in the UK. Asil Sartbaeva. She's a researcher, scientist, and I know she also teaches at the University of Bath in the UK, and she was awarded with multiple awards. And she is really a STEM champion who empowers women. So she is a very public figure, I'd say, who is partnering with many international organizations to become their goodwill ambassador. So I even attended one of her lectures today, this day, and she really inspires me how she managed to live in Kyrgyzstan. As if I'm not mistaken, she didn't even live in Bishkek. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, maybe it's wrong, but she managed to become one of the top specialists who created such a wonderful method of keeping the vaccines, which really saves lives, right, and advances our medicine and technologies in general. So I'm really inspired, and I'm really happy that nowadays we have such a role model in our country saying that anything is possible, and women in science is a real thing. And there is our colleague, a woman who used to live in Kyrgyzstan, and she reached and achieved such heights in her career.
So my woman is a woman in social sciences, so I hope that's not totally unacceptable. But her name is Dr. Nancy Shaper Hughes, and she is a medical anthropologist, which means that she looks at how different cultures approach sickness and wellness, or disease and healthiness. And so in different cultures, we feel differently about being well or being ill. For example, some of her original research was done in Brazil, where there was a very, very high, tragically high rate of infant mortality. So children are being born and were dying within the first year of life. And the way women had to adapt to deal with these really, really high death rates. They basically were not able, could not allow themselves to get very attached to any of their children. And this had really tragic consequences for the children and for the mother who was trying to bond with a child and raise a family. And the reason why I think of her when I think of a role model is she was really one of the first people to do research in this area and to spend time sitting with women and talking with women about how they felt about their health and the health of their children, poor women in a poor country, and managed to make this very difficult situation. She managed to use it for advocacy to increase the amount of health services that were available in these very poor communities. So not only did she sit and work and listen to these people, but she also was able to use the results of that to change and to change their lives and to improve things. So, yeah, hopefully social sciences still count.
Thank you. Great role models, great examples. Thank you for sharing with us. Next question is for Mary. Mary, can you please share any USAID projects related to sciences?
Yeah, so we have quite a few in my office that work in the health sector. We have a big program called Cure Tuberculosis that works with hospitals and communities to try and decrease the amount of tuberculosis, particularly drug-resistant strains of tuberculosis in Kyrgyzstan. We also work with a program called Epidemic Prevention and Control, which is working with HIV positive people and trying to help identify people that have HIV, help get them tested, help get them on treatment so that they can have these days you can have a very good and very normal life as long as you are taking the medicines that you need to, and they work very closely with the medical system, trying to help identify and support these people to stay on treatment. We have some work on nutrition, particularly in the south of the country. In Batken and Jalalabad, there are some high rates of malnutrition in young children. So we're working with mothers and children and community outreach health workers there. And then we have some work that we're doing right now related to COVID. So trying to increase the health system's ability to respond to COVID, help build laboratory systems to do good COVID testing, and strengthen procedures in hospitals so that if you go to the hospital and you're not sick with COVID, you don't catch it. You don't catch COVID while you're there, or so that the health workers that are caring for a COVID patient are able to avoid catching COVID from their patients. So working on protocols and trainings for that area. So those are sort of our medicine ones. And we do some work in education, reading and math for children, primary school children. So that's sort of the picture.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. It's a big scale of different projects. So thank you for that work you're doing here in Kyrgyz Republic. Now I would like to ask our alumni girls, what are the main takeaways for you from the participation in Tech Women and Tech Girls programs?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the question. For me, before the Tech Girl program, I was I was not confident of my decision to pursue IT Square, but I had a couple of questions that was I ready for the IT, because IT is difficult sphere and something like that. But after the Tech Girls program, I have decided that I will I will to pursue, and now I'm confident and I'm not afraid. And so now I study at the Kyrgyz German Institute of Applied Informatics. Yes, and never never be afraid of the IT sphere. And actually, it's interesting sphere. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think I'd like to share my biggest takeaways from Taekwondo. Of course, it's the network that you get. It's the network of wonderful women specialists in STEM that live in 22 countries across the world. And this network is invaluable because you've got so much to share, so much to talk about, and discuss what are the solutions to the problems that you came up with. And when you have so many fellows who can support you and who can respond to your questions, it's really great. And on the other hand, you have so many role models, not only in Silicon Valley, but also your fellows from your program. And I'd say one of the biggest takeaways for me was that women are capable of supporting each other, and together they can really create a great atmosphere and a community that can build STEM in a new way for women at the entrance level, then on the professional level. I really enjoyed it. And I would say that my main problem in my generation was that there weren't many role models, specifically in science, that we could look up to. And my biggest takeaway from Taekwondo program was that if you don't have one, be one. Because if you become a role model, you can inspire so many girls that will follow into your steps. And that's amazing that it's not only about you, but it's also about the generations to come after you. So those women who will look up to you and to your fellows and will be able to say that because of this role models, I was able to be confident and choose this path. So I think it's amazing that now, after understanding this value, I'm able to inspire not only the generations to come, but also some women who are already professionals to be role models and to show the girls that there is a path for them as well.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing with us. We have several questions from our viewers. So the first question is, who or what inspires you to achieve the goals?
Yeah, I think I can start if you don't mind, because it's a very significant question for me. Because we've been working in this project, well, I personally for 3 years, and it's a very difficult project for our country because we lack infrastructure or specialists to run a space program, even in terms of nanosatellite space program. And because it has never been prototyped here, we don't know how much time each task takes. Therefore, it could be an endless process, or at least seem to us as an endless process. And the one of the main things that motivates me to stay in this program and to really work hard is to imagine how many girls in my country, and not only in our country, will be influenced by our program. So I see the struggles and I see the barriers that girls and women have to fight and have to face in our country on a daily basis, on so many levels, and on in professional level as well, because we know that STEM and science are usually occupied by men. And therefore, when I see my final goal and I think the outcome that many women will be inspired by our example, and this really drives me. This really motivates me to work hard each day, because I know that there will be a rewarding result at the very end, not only for me personal, but for so many people. And I'm not only talking about girls, but also a young generation of girls and boys.
Thank you.
For me, of course, it's my parents. They always inspire me to achieve the goals. They're like a generator that drives me.
That's lovely. I hope your parents know that. Yeah. I think for me, it has always been very important to feel like I am doing something that will improve the world. Maybe that's very idealistic, but I would like to make the world a little bit better after I leave it. And so I think for me that's the inspiration, is just trying to improve things and to help people out who otherwise might not have the options that they could. So, oops, my cat. Sorry.
Thank you. It's really inspiring and motivating, and that's interesting that each of you has different things which inspires you to go forward. That's great. So another question is, do you know any programs which support girls in STEM? So we already talked about the Tech Women, Tech Girls program. These programs are support the girls and women in STEM area. So if you know any others, please can you share with us?
So I can also mention one program, but it works locally here. Technovation project, which was founded by Tech Women alumni in Kyrgyzstan. So it's a Tech Women program for women in Kyrgyzstan that can also help you get prepared for Tech Women or to advance in your career. And I really like the idea and the mission. It's really great. I also know that in terms of our professional path of space, we have a UN office that works on space and space affairs in general. And recently they also started supporting women in space. And they launched one program, as I believe. And there are many different programs specifically for women and girls in STEM, because this specific direction has been really supported in recent years. So Tech Women and Tech Girls, well, I love them the most. Yeah, but I think if you would like to participate in one, I think you can Google or search for them, and you'll be able to come up with many wonderful programs to join.
Thank you, Kuzibek. I also want to add another program. It calls Technovation Girls Challenge, and you also can participate this program if you are studying at school. The next question is, do you have mentees, and how do you encourage them?
So, maybe not formally, but there are some young women that I have worked with or been connected with in the recent past. And I think one of the main things I try to do is first be very honest about what the challenges or or what the situation that they might find themselves in, what some of the challenges might be, but also to help them think about what they want to do and how they want to approach it. Because there's an interesting thing about being in a mentor position is you can just tell someone, this is what I did when I was your age or when I was in this situation. And that can be helpful, don't get me wrong. But what is more helpful is helping someone figure out, well, what is important to me? How do I think I want to solve this problem? What feels true or right or like the best solution for that person? And sometimes as women, we actually, we don't do that. We just sort of, we're like, oh, we must, solve this problem, go forward. My teacher told me to do this, I will do it. My mom told me to do this, I will do it. And figuring out what I want or what I think is the best solution or how I want to interact with my colleagues or my peers or what I want to do with my life even. What is my career goal? I think it's really important to help women in particular start thinking about that and owning their own vision for themselves.
Thank you. Girls, do you want to add something?
Yeah, maybe just shortly. I partly work as mentor for one UN Odyssey and American Council's project. So it's a wonderful project where school students and university freshmen are able to come up with the technology solutions to solve rule of law problems, so to address them. And I'm really inspired how these young people, well, I'm also young in a way, but they're like 10 years younger than me. And I can see the difference of how we approach different problems and how we think of the solutions, because those people, they were already born with internet and all this technology and devices, and I really like them, so I really get to learn from them. But at the same time, I'm really glad that I can be helpful to them and I can tell them what I've been through on my career path and tell them how things might work or what solutions or what path we might take. And I think the only way to motivate people now is to create mission that you believe in. And I think they're really inspired by their mission, which is also to help communities and help build some solutions to introduce the rule of law to people and to strengthen it in our country.
Great, thank you for feedback. So we have, there are other questions, but I think we already mentioned it during our panel discussion. It relates to the family support, Tech Women, Tech Girls program, the role models in STEM. And I have the final question for you. So what advice could you offer to all aspiring young ladies who is interested in STEM out there?
So my advice is do not let your uncertainty or stereotypes or somebody prevent you from choosing your profession or achieving your goal. And everything is up to you, and keep going.
Yeah, I think I could also add something. I think nowadays for women and girls, it's also really important to be bold, to be active, and even to be proactive. So don't be afraid of your dreams. Everything can be real, even space flights. Well, at least that you not fly, but your satellite flies into space. So dream big, and there are always people and women who will support you.
No, I think those are all great, and I don't even know if I could add anything, but when I was reflecting in advance, what I was thinking is that um, I think women need to believe that being a woman, being a female in science, it is an asset. It is not a liability. And so I think that relates very nicely to this idea that have confidence in yourself and believe that you are just as good, and if not better, than any of the other candidates that are out there. So that's what I'd add. And maybe to say it's inspirational to meet all of these other lovely young women who are doing such great work. So, yeah.
So just dream big and hard work.
Yeah.
Thank you for such a warm words. Thank you for the incredible panel discussion. Thank you for spending time with us, and happy International Day of Women and Girls in Science. Dear our audience, if you wasn't able to watch our panel discussion in real time, the video will be in our page, and you're welcome to share it with the other women and girls and inspire all of them. Thank you for your time. Thank you for accepting our invitation, and have a wonderful evening.
Oh, thank you very much too. Yeah, it was a pleasure to join it.
I hope you enjoy the panel discussion.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for
Thank
invitation.
you. Good night.